Hi guys, welcome back to Good by Grains. I'm Alicia and today we are going to be making baked Alaska. Now my husband's birthday was just a couple of days ago, and so I'm making his birthday dinner for him tonight. And I wanted to make kind of a nice little sweet treat, something that we can celebrate that doesn't have sugar overload and that isn't just full of grains and stuff like that. So this recipe is not 100% paleo, Whole30, anything like that. So just a heads up, a little bit of a forewarning. There is some grass-fed butter, there is some honey, and there is some dark chocolate and stuff like that in this, but it's certainly not going to be as crazy as if you went and, you know, got a dessert at a restaurant, you know, and they sing to you with the candles and everything like that. So baked Alaska, if you've never had it or heard of it, what it normally is it's layers of ice cream and some type of cake, and they freeze it, and then you put a meringue topping on top and then pop it into a incredibly hot oven, or use one of those torch things like what you make creme brulee with, and they bake it till the ice cream kind of starts to melt a little bit and the top of the meringue kind of gets a nice light golden brown. So that's what baked Alaska is. So I made this a couple days ago. This is my flourless chocolate cake. I will link the recipe down below. I just posted this on my blog earlier this week. I just made some more ice cream. I don't know if you can see that. This is my cinnamon ice cream. It's one of my easiest ice cream recipes. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort or thought or anything like that anymore. And it kind of pairs nicely with the chocolate. Both of these I will link. They were on the blog previously, just to kind of keep this video not ridiculously long. I haven't shown how to make these, but they're both really simple. And then I have in here, I don't want to tip it too far forward, we have some egg whites. The egg whites are going to be what the meringue topping is. So my personal recommendation is to kind of take your egg whites out an hour or so before you're going to bake this, or not bake it, make the meringue. This way the egg whites kind of come up to a little bit closer to room temperature and they're not super cold, and this will allow them to be beat into stiff peaks a little bit easier. So let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take one of these little mini loaf pans and line it. I line it with some plastic wrap. You can also line it with parchment paper or something else like that. It's super important though that you line it. This way when you go to unmold it, you don't have to be worrying about trying to finagle it out of this metal pan. You can just kind of lift the sides of the plastic wrap. So I'm not exactly sure what size mini loaf pan this is, so I will measure it after this and put it in the description box below just so that you know. You can certainly use any other type of smaller container. If you want to make individual sizes of these, you can use like ramekins or something like that, but super important to line it. So I have, this is my coconut milk cinnamon ice cream. You can certainly use store-bought ice cream, but you want it to kind of be almost like a soft serve type of consistency because you are going to be spreading this out. So if you don't want to make your own, you can buy it at the store. I just prefer to make my own because then you know exactly what's in it. When I make my coconut milk cinnamon ice cream, I only use like 2 tablespoons of honey, which is a decent amount of honey, but not nearly as much sugar as you would be getting from the store. And then this is my flourless chocolate cake. As you can see, I use parchment paper for here too, so you can easily slide it out. So what we're going to be doing is making layers of flourless chocolate cake and then the coconut milk ice cream, kind of layering it in here almost to the top. So you may have a little bit of each of these left over, and with that you can just store it in the freezer or the fridge. Well, not the ice cream in the fridge, but you can store the flourless chocolate cake in the fridge and use it for a different recipe or eat it plain or anything like that. Lastly, you want to have really clean hands because you are going to be pressing the flourless chocolate cake down into this mini loaf pan, and so you definitely want to make sure you have clean hands. At this point, you can pull your flourless chocolate cake out. And the best thing that you can do with this is pop it into the freezer for about 10 or 15 minutes before you're going to do this, and that will make molding this into the pan a lot easier. But you can kind of flatten this back out. Now we want to start with a layer of the flourless chocolate cake, and as you can see, it's about the approximate size lengthwise for the widthwise here is about the length of the length here. So we can kind of slightly measure this. You're going to be doing approximately 3 to 4 inches for my pan. So you can kind of just slice this like that. And I told you this is going to get messy. So you can kind of slide this under to get it to come up. And then with the help of your knife, you can kind of lift this and put it straight in to the pan. And then you can kind of wiggle it around and make sure that it's flat. Now, if you want, as you can see, maybe you can't see that very well, but there's a little bit of gaps around. So if you want, you can cut off another small little piece and kind of wedge it in, which is probably what I will do. I'll cut it from the edge over here. And then you can kind of wedge this in if you, let me break this in half. Where I have a little bit of an opening right here, you can kind of press this down. This is exactly why you want clean hands. So now that we have our chocolate layer down, we can add our ice cream. So you just kind of want one big dollop, and then you can spread this around, and you want to fully cover the chocolate layer. You can spread this. Now you can make your layers as thick or as thin as you possibly want. My flourless chocolate cake is only about a little over 1/2 inch thick, maybe almost an inch. So if you want to make the layer of ice cream approximately the same amount, you can do that as well. So now I'm going to finish with another layer of the flourless chocolate cake and more of the ice cream, and then we'll be back. Okay, so we did another layer of our flourless chocolate cake and our ice cream, so now we have 4 layers all together. I usually like to finish off with the flourless chocolate cake, so at the end you'll have 3 layers of the cake and 1 or 2 layers of the ice cream. So you can kind of cut this last piece, place it right onto the top. And now you can see a little bit better how there's still some gaps right here. So I usually take this and kind of press it down. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's still gonna taste good. So you can kind of press this down. Don't press too hard because the softened ice cream will push up. So now you're going to take the remaining part of your plastic wrap and kind of fold this over. And you want to do this mostly to protect it from when you pop this back into the freezer, to make sure you're not going to have a bunch of freezer burn. So you can kind of wrap this all nice up and tight. And now you are going to pop this into the freezer until it's fully hardened. So this usually takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours, depending on your freezer, depending on how soft your ice cream was and stuff like that. So we will pop this into the freezer, and once it is nearing the stage where we can unmold this, then we will begin making our meringue. Okay, so our baked Alaska layers have been in the freezer for about 2.5, almost 3 hours. So now I'm going to make the meringue. Now you don't want to make the meringue ahead of time. You want to make it right before you're going to be putting it onto the baked Alaska layers. So these are my egg whites that I have. This is 3 egg whites. And now I have egg beaters. You can also use like a stand mixer to mix this, but we want to beat these until they become stiff peaks. Okay, so as you can see, these are definite stiff peaks. If you kind of stir this around a little bit and you pull up, you can kind of see that the egg white is not moving. So we are going to set this off to the side. And now I have a pie plate. Now this is a oven safe pie plate. I don't know that they make non-oven safe pie plates, but here is our baked Alaska that was in the freezer. You can kind of tap on it and see it is definitely frozen solid. So we are going to try to, this is where having the plastic wrap really comes in handy. And we can kind of pull this out. As you can see, it just comes out as one big piece. And we are going to unwrap it and invert it onto our pie plate. So I can move this out of the way. And invert it right onto the pie plate. And you can remove the plastic wrap, kind of put this off to the side. And now you can't see it quite well, but we have obviously the flourless chocolate layer on top, and then we have our different layers with the ice cream. So what we are going to do is take our meringue, just kind of give it a couple quick stirs, and we are going to kind of paint this, or not really paint it, but blob it onto the layers of baked Alaska. And you mostly kind of want to focus this on the top, and then just a little bit down around the sides. But you're just kind of make this pillowy topping. Just kind of use your spoon to kind of make some layers. And then at this point, we are going to stick this back into the freezer. And now the main reason that you want to do that is because you want to allow this meringue topping to kind of harden a little bit and get nice and cold. And then what you are going to do is preheat your oven you can use, I usually use the broiler, and I will put the broiler on high and let it kind of preheat for about 5 minutes. And then I will remove this from the freezer and directly pop it into the broiler. I usually put it on the lower rack, and you don't want to walk away from this. It's only going to take, you know, less than a couple minutes, and you just want to keep an eye on it, and right when it begins to just slightly get golden brown, that's when you're going to pull it out of the oven. I usually will serve it immediately. Otherwise, if you are trying to make sure that you can slice it somewhat cleanly, you can pop it back into the freezer for another, say, 5 to 10 minutes to help it kind of freeze a little bit with the ice cream, because the ice cream will begin to soften, and then you can serve it to your guests. Okay, so I let this freeze for about 45 minutes or so, and then I put the broiler on high, and I put this underneath, carefully watching it until it started to, as you can see, get lightly golden brown. Now, if you use one of the torch type things, like the handheld torches, you'll be able to get the light golden brown all the way around the sides, but I pulled it out because I didn't want this top part to burn before the side really started crisping up. So you can certainly use a torch, and that might be a little bit easier, but otherwise this is perfectly fine. So we will cut off a small piece of this. You can kind of hear, let me see if you can hear this. Maybe not. It kind of sounds like, this top part really sounds like when you have a marshmallow that you've just roasted over the fire. So as you can see, the knife goes through pretty easily because this, the ice cream has started to melt a little bit. But you can cut off a slice. Let me see if I can kind of show you what this looks like. So as you can see, I have the chocolate layer, the ice cream layer, chocolate, ice cream, chocolate, and then the meringue over the top. So we can carefully put this onto a plate. And you can serve it just like this. Let me see if I can pull this out of the way. You could serve it just plain like this. You can put some coconut whipped cream on top. This is probably rich enough for me. They have like my fingerprint. This is probably rich enough for me just like this. Any leftovers you can just pop straight back into the freezer and it will keep. But this is gonna make at least 4, if not 6 servings, dessert size servings. So I hope you guys will give this recipe a shot. It does take a little bit of extra work, but it's totally worth it. And whoever you're celebrating or whatever holiday you're celebrating that you would make this, it's gonna make it that much sweeter when dessert rolls around. So this is now the end of Cold Treats month of July. I will be back next week with a regular recipe, probably something that's either super quick and easy, something on the grill. I'm kind of throwing some ideas around. So hope you guys have a great Saturday and I'll see you next week. Bye.